Welcome to the Speak by Design podcast, where we study personal style, message structure, and message strategy so you can become a consistently compelling force. Let's dig in. We need to celebrate something. If you are following along in these lessons, starting with lesson number 1, you are halfway through the series, halfway, and I hope you are feeling fantastic from that. I was looking back at all the topics we've covered. If you're putting these into practice, for sure people are noticing. Please give us some feedback, and you can send me a note at team@speakbydesign.com. You can also like our podcast, and that means a lot to us as well. You can write a little note. Let me know how this is going for you as we get into the second half of these lessons, the second half. All right, last lesson was about handling questions, and I was very clear that it was questions that are framed with a question mark at the end, but not all questions have a question mark to them. Sometimes there are these statements that are objections, and an objection sounds like this: this won't work. Have you presented an idea to an audience and the audience says, that won't work, we've tried it before and it failed? Or they say, we can't right now, we don't have the resources, we don't have the people, the time, or the money. Or they say, I'm just not convinced that that plan will work. Or they say, that's not a priority right now. All 4 of those options are types of objections we hear from teams all the time. You are, let's suppose you're in IT, you propose something to the business and the business says, we can't help you there right now. Or vice versa, business goes to IT or the digital team and asks for something and they hear a no, a version of a no. Now, these are objections, and we're going to change our view of objections. Objections are good. It means that that audience trusts and respects you enough that they are telling you why they're not on board. It is way worse for an audience to nod and say, yes, we'll help you with that, and then they do nothing after the meeting. When you receive an objection, you are getting their reason and rationale for why they're not going to support. And then you have somewhere to go in the discussion. When you receive an objection, please take that as a kind gesture from your audience that they like you enough to want to collaborate with you and problem solve with you. When you receive an objection, that is an invitation to start problem solving. You may be wrong. You may not have all the information. It sounds like you don't. This is you becoming more of a learner rather than a bulldozer and forcing your agenda. And if you do that, if you keep forcing your agenda, you will only face more resistance. All right, so point number 1 is we like objection. We plan for objection. We want objections to come out. And we're looking for them not just in the responses, we're looking for them in the body language. When somebody pulls back in their seat, when they start shaking their head, when there's a massive change in the energy of the room, that's a sign that there's an objection under the surface. We want to surface that objection right then and there. That's why sometimes you'll hear people say, take a survey, a pulse check, or even a thumbs up, thumbs down around the table. That's because we're trying to surface the objections around the room. Just like we shared 4 best practices for handling questions, there are 4 pushback tools. And pushback, objections, same thing. Those are interchangeable words to us. And you want pushback. Pushback is a good thing. Always help yourself realize that no, brain, it's not reasonable for big initiatives for me to expect that everyone's going to say, yes, Stephanie, you're right. Let's do it. Let's start today. Resistance is natural, especially when you're promoting a big change, and objections need to be handled one at a time. All right, so what are the 4 tools for handling pushback? They are number 1, probe and delay, number 2, feel, felt, found out, number 3, match and lead, number 4, reject and reframe. Now, these need to be practiced because the more I have spent time with them, the easier they come to me. And I know it would be the same for you. So let me share how this works. We're going to imagine that I have been asked to go to lunch. Now, I have been asked to go to lunch. So that would be a question, but maybe they frame it like, we need to go to lunch. Probe and delay would be, oh, lunch? Today? Where? What were you thinking? That is a probe and delay. My face is neutral. You don't know if I want to go or I don't want to go to lunch. The second tactic is a feel, felt, found out response. So I know you want to go to lunch. I want to go to lunch too. Unfortunately, I'm out of commission this week because we've got a big project and we're under a deadline. That's feel, felt, found out. What's nice about that feel, felt, found out is the empathy I get to use. I know you want something and I want that too. That also highlights a common goal we share. It makes us alike. It's very humanizing. Occasionally I have companies that say, oh, we don't talk that way. Okay, but when you do, it sounds better. It's a tool to use occasionally, especially when you need to work on relationship, on building or strengthening a relationship. Now, the third tool is match and lead, which is a shorter version of feel, felt, and found out in that you validate, which does not mean agree. If you can agree, go ahead and agree, but validate that you heard a portion of what they said, and then at the end offer disagreement. So it could be, oh, lunch does sound great. Unfortunately, I'm fasting right now and I'm not eating lunch these days. All right, so that's a match and lead. Now, reject and reframe is you saying no right out of the gate. And most of us who are people-pleasing type personalities, amiable personalities, are going to struggle with this. It sounds like this. I can't do lunch this week. I'm fasting. What I could do is breakfast next month. All right, so by doing that, I'm saying no to a portion, and then I am highlighting what I can do at the end. That's reject and reframe. Now, let's imagine that we've got some real objections that you're faced with, things like your fee is too expensive. So your fee is too expensive. You've got your 4 tools that you can use. And notice that they start off neutral to positive and then they go negative. So that neutral one is the probe and delay. So the fee is too expensive. You can say something like, what did you have in mind? Or do you have a budget in mind already for this? Most often they will say no to that. And when that's the case, that means they don't understand the value. And you need to start focusing on the problem again and understanding how big this problem is. Maybe the problem's not that big and your fee is too large for a problem that's not that big. But maybe they haven't been thinking about the ramifications of the problem the right way, or they don't understand something about the service or the product that you're bringing to them. But if they have the courage to say the fee is too high, that's great because now you have somewhere to go interview them. You have a direction that you can follow. Stay neutral in that response while you're uncovering and unearthing their rationale for believing that. If they say, we just can't do that right now, your probe and delay would be, you can't do that right now. What's going on right now? Because in the probe and delay, you really want to ask why. But coming out of the gate with why is irritating to, it'll make them feel defensive. Instead, if you say, well, what makes you think that? Or what's going on? Or tell us more. Or even something like this, interesting. That invites them to tell you more. That is probe and delay. All right, the second tool is feel, felt, found out. Now, where does this come from? This comes from customer service. Customer service representatives were taught to always empathize with the caller. Let's imagine your power went out and you call the power company and you're complaining that the power's been out and you can't do anything and you can't work. And the person says, "Oh, I know this is frustrating. You want to work and you've got young children at home. I had something like this happen to me a year ago, and we were without power for 3 days. I lost everything in my refrigerator and freezer, and it was just torture to not be able to work. Oh, I looked into the system, and it looks like your power is going to be back on by this afternoon. So hang on tight. We're doing the best we can, and we'll get that up as soon as possible." That is the use of feel, felt, found out. Now, going back to our scenario on the fee is too high. So you could say something like this: "I recognize that this is an investment." Now, I don't have to say, "I recognize that our fee is high," because it's only high compared to other things. Like it actually could be low as well. So you can change the language in that first sentence. You don't have to use exactly what they said. So something like, I can see how the fee could look high. And then you could say, the reason our clients believe in that fee is because of the return we get. So that you could say something like that, "I recognize that this is an investment. Other customers who thought the same thing initially were very pleased with the investment because of the return and the outcome they achieved. It ended up feeling like a no-cost investment to them because of this." So there you are helping them. You're showing empathy of, yes, it is an investment. I hear you. And then you're going, instead of saying, "I thought it was high too," I'm going to use a customer perspective and say, other customers have felt and thought similar things initially until they discovered something else. All right, so that's feel, felt, found out. The third option is match and lead. So match and lead on the fee perspective would sound something like this: your fee is too high. You would come in and say, "It is an investment. Keep in mind, we only get paid if the transaction goes through. And a lot of time goes into this upfront, regardless of whether or not we end up closing." From this point forward, you could spend some time talking about how great the outcome is going to be and that your fee is incredibly small relative to what they will be getting. That is going to feel like yes, but no. And the reason why match and lead is so popular is because people like to be validated. They like to hear what you agree with them on. They also like to feel smart. Remember, your audience, their goal in life is to feel smart, successful, popular, high principled, attractive. Like they're looking for those good feelings. Some people are giving themselves those feelings. Others are looking for validation from their audiences that they are smart. And when you can give that to them in a match and lead and help them feel good for asking their question or stating their objection and not punish them. This is not a time to look like you're dissatisfied or disgruntled with the question. Match what you can in a very calm manner. I love the consultative voice for this. And then offer the counterpoint of view. All right, now the fourth tool is to reject and reframe. Now this one, most often we like to practice this one-on-one with people to condition themselves to feel invited, comfortable, and confident about rejecting. And you want to start practicing this in your team meetings. When the meeting goes off the rails, when someone has the wrong information, can you interject and reject and say, "Hold on, Mary, that's not the case. It's actually this." So rejecting is you coming into the conversation with a, "No, that's not right," or "It's actually not that. Here's what it is. Just like the match and lead feels like yes and no, the reject and reframe is no, but yes. We like to practice this one-on-one with people to condition themselves to get comfortable saying no first. Because when you do that, it shows so much courage as a leader that people believe you are an authority. It's a very clear establishment of I'm in charge, I'm an authority, I'm an expert. No, being one of the first sentences. Imagine somebody asks you to take on a new project. Mary, are you able to take on a new project? I'm not right now. I'd love to help, but maybe Sue could help you instead. That is a reject and reframe. Or I don't have capacity, but I know I could help in a month or two. Reject and reframe. We need to be able to reject and reframe to save time and be efficient with people. Those of us who want to be agreeable and say yes to everything will say yes, and then later we have to come back 2 days later and say, I'm sorry, I don't have capacity for this. It would have been much better to say that no first. Now you might say, I don't hear people talking this way. Oh, but you do. Think about media interviews where you hear the person responding saying something like, we are not able to disclose that right now. What I can tell you is we have many efforts under consideration and we will be making an announcement soon. That's a reject and reframe. I can't answer that question, but what I can tell you is this. Get ready to use that response when you don't have the answer ready. When you need to say something like, rather than give you incomplete information, let me get back to you. Or I don't have that data available. We do know that in this area over here, which has similar characteristics, that this is happening. So I'm saying no to one part, but then I'm directing people, redirecting them to something we do know, something that is clear, something we're confident in, something that will satisfy the real ache and burning question that they have. If you don't have that, you can say, we'll get back to you when we do. But here's what I can share with you today. That's reject and reframe. If somebody says in a meeting, oh, marketing is not going to like this, and the leader says, we're not here to do this for marketing. We're here to do this for the whole organization. And we need everybody thinking holistically about the overarching goal of our organization and not their functional area. We're not going to fight this out between functions. We've got to all rise above and unite toward one common goal. So that's reject and reframe. Out of the gate saying no, or going 180 degrees the opposite direction. So if the objection is this won't work, then the reject is something like this. It will work. Now that will not sound like a rejection because it's so positive, but that is you rejecting their claim that something is going to fail. If somebody says this is going to fail, you can say it won't fail. It won't fail because we've done it in other business units and it's been successful. Just because it didn't work the last time we tried it doesn't mean we can't redo it and do it differently and achieve the outcome we all want. And that feels motivational. Isn't that more of a motivating message when you can reject the person who is being an Eeyore and believing that the sky is falling, and you can come in and say the sky is not falling? Same thing in sales. If a person says this is not our highest priority, a reject and reframe would be, it is your highest priority if you're seeking to grow revenue. But see how pushy that is? That could feel too pushy. That's where you have to use your discretion. Maybe with your audience, if you're not the authority, if you're more of a consultant or guide to the person you're speaking to, you don't want to use a reject and reframe unless you have to. That probe and delay is going to be better. And there are some people, and I'm thinking of fundraising consultants, people in the business of asking for investment, who like to use probe and delay and maybe felt found out, but only stay in that range with their people in their responses to objection because they don't want to be too assertive. So ask yourself, how assertive do I need to be? If it's very assertive, then you're going to stay by reject and reframe a lot. Match and lead and reject and reframe. If you're coming across more consultative, you want to be more of a facilitator, use probe and delay. If you're someone who gets the opportunity to lead workshops or problem-solving sessions, these are the tactics to practice in those so that they become automatic tools that you can use when you do get into that boardroom, because these are exactly what you'll need to say to board members who are getting you off track. If they say, well, do you have this KPI? And you might need to say, we don't have that KPI, and that KPI doesn't matter to us because what we do care about more is this other KPI. This other KPI makes more sense in our business. Oh, you want to be delicate with that because we don't want the person asking the question or the person objecting to feel unintelligent. We are wanting people to feel good about speaking up because that's when you have true collaboration. All right, see how you can put this into effect the next time you are working through a challenge where people are sharing objections and different points of view, and you can start putting into practice the probe and delay, felt found out, match and lead, and reject and reframe. It's going to be great. I hope you get some great objections today that you can practice with. Take care, everybody. If you are enjoying all of these lessons, but now you're hungering to turn all of this into skills and habits that make this work intuitive and natural so that you don't have to think about it, then you want to join Speak by Design University. That's our coaching program that gives you private coaching, group coaching with me, group training, self-paced learning, as well as exceptional networking with other people like you. This program is for managers and above, people whose careers are on fire and they're looking to hit their next level, and they want to do that sooner rather than later. Check it out at speakbydesign.com/join. That's speakbydesign.com/join, and you can start with us at the 1st of next month. We hope to see you there.